5 boxes. They're about, I did mine about 3 inches long. So you just give yourself just kind of enough space. And then I'm going to go ahead and tell you what you start labeling them. So on the very left-hand side, that one is salt. Then the one right after that is rubbing alcohol, or you can shorthand it by just putting RA. Next one after that is splatter. The one after that is blooms/bleeding. And the last one is saran wrap, which you can abbreviate just SW. Okay, if you didn't get it this first time, that's okay. I'll tell you which one is what before we start putting down paint. If you didn't get yourself paper towels, you will need them, okay? All right, so first thing that I want you to do is I want you to put your brush into your water container and clean that bugger out. So make sure there's no residual paint. My water, I've been using it today, so mine looks real dirty. And then I'm also gonna get my paper towel and I'm gonna dry my paintbrush off as well. So I'm just extra making sure that there is no paint in my paintbrush, okay? All right, and guys, I'm gonna move through this fairly quickly because it's fairly simple stuff that then we kind of repeat as we go. All right, so to activate your watercolors, you need to stick your brush into your water and keep the water in your brush bristles, so don't run it along the side or anything, and then just go and pick a color. Just pick whatever color you want and kind of lay that water in there, and some of them you might notice be a little goopy or runny. That's just because other people have used them today, okay? So you're just gonna pick one color. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just start laying it down in this salt area. Now I'm not gonna cover up the whole square, but I am gonna take up quite a bit of the room. And as of right now, I have a ton of pigment on there to where like I can't even see the paper through it. And that means I've got too much. The point of watercolor is to see the paper behind it. So instead of going back and grabbing more pigment each time, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to dip my brush just right in the water and then just paint into that color just with water. And I'm going to keep expanding it out to the right. So, and I might do that about 4 or 5 times. So I've done it twice now where I've just went back in and just added water. There's my 3rd time. And I'm just kind of keeping that going to the right. And then I'm going to kind of work some of that water back over to this left-hand side. So you guys can see up on the screen where on my left-hand side I've got a lot of pigment, and then on the right-hand side I have more water. So I'm just kind of working my brush around to kind of spread that pigment out, and really I want more water than pigment, and you want this salt area to be pretty hydrated. So you want a good amount of water in there. So I probably dipped my brush just into the water and added it to this little square puddle, probably about 5 or 6 times. Now, if you guys notice with the watercolor, wherever your line ends, the watercolor doesn't go past that. Okay, so anytime like you make a new brush stroke, like the water will follow that, but other than that, it stays within the confinement that you've created for it, okay? All right, so I've got that section done. You can see where it's pooling on the left and right side where it's kind of darker. Now I'm gonna go in and take a pinch of salt and I'm gonna sprinkle salt all over that section. Now you guys don't need to be messy with it, okay? You might notice that your paper is bending a little bit, so I'm gonna kind of pick it up and kind of manipulate the liquid to move. And you should see the salt crystals starting to kind of soak up that watercolor. If you're not seeing that happen, you didn't get enough water. Okay, so make sure you're just using the salt. Just using salt on this one. Okay, gonna move on to rubbing alcohol. Okay, so for rubbing alcohol, I'm personally gonna use a different color. You don't have to. Since I'm gonna be switching to a new color, I wanna make sure that my brush is cleaned out, so I'm cleaning it out in the water. I'm drying it off on my paper towel to make sure that it's nice and clean. Then I'm gonna go back into the water so I can hydrate. And then I'm basically going to just do the same technique that I just did, like the first step in salt. Oop. By just laying down some color. Now I've got a ton of pigment right there. So I'm only gonna do that little swatch, and then the rest of this, I'm just gonna lay water down. And then I'm gonna kind of spread that shape out. Okay, so I had quite a lot of pigment, and then I went back in with just water. If you guys get like a lot of pooling, you can always take a tissue is actually better, but you can take a paper towel and kind of blot that up. Just do a little bit. You'll notice that it'll really come up. Okay, now for rubbing alcohol. And I want everyone to watch this before they do it so you kind of know what to expect. So I clean off my brush really, really well. I'm just going to dip the very tip of my paintbrush in there, and then here we go. So everyone watch. So you should get this. Oh, I'm not getting it very well. Okay, so you should get a little bit of a resist, so hold on. Mine's not working out very well, so let me see what the problem is. Maybe I've got a little too much watercolor. So I'm gonna kind of dampen that up a little bit. Sorry guys, trial and error. Let me kind of figure out what I've got going on here. Okay, now let me try again. Okay, rubbing alcohol. Getting it a little bit. That's kind of weird. It's worked twice earlier today. So, hold on guys. This is what it'll look like, hopefully. Right here. It looks like this one. Good. That's what you want. Mine's not working out so well. This is the first one, and I'm not really sure why it's not working out so well. Okay, it should resist it. So it's kind of weird. I've had other people this morning saying that it wasn't working, and this is the first time it's not working for me. I might not have enough rubbing alcohol. That could be the issue. Let me try that. Nope, it's still kind of not. Weird. What are you asking? It's supposed to look like this, guys. Like, as you set it in there, it should resist your watercolor, like, immediately. So mine didn't do that either, and I'm not 100% for sure why. I might have had, like, too much water in there versus the watercolor pigment itself. That could have been it. But this is the first time I've had a problem with it. 2 out of 2 this morning, I was fine. Yeah, we'll just go with that. Okay, splatter. What we need to do for this is your paper towels, you need to kind of set up a barrier all the way around. So what I'm gonna do with my paper towels is I'm just gonna kind of section that part off. Whoops, I want that to stay there. And then that way I will have less of a mess to clean up on my table, and I can keep it out of the other areas.
Is it okay if it covers, if it like picks up the paint from the other one?
Yeah, that's okay. All right. So I've sectioned that out. Okay, and I'm gonna go in with a new color. You can do that or you don't have to. doesn't matter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with this new color, and I'm right-handed, so what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna hold the end of the paintbrush with my left hand in my pointer finger and my thumb, kind of like this. So real loosely, right at the very end. And I wanna make sure that my brush is real nice and hydrated. So I picked up pigment and then I even kind of dipped it in my water. So then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold it at the very end, and then I'm gonna start tapping the metal part of my brush as it is hovering above this space. Okay, so kind of like that. So that first one, I got a real nice big splatter because I loaded it up with some extra water. So you can do it that way, or you can even load your brush up and then get your index finger and actually like physically flick the bristles on there, and that'll give you a much finer spray. Okay? And that's it.
This is a murder scene.
A murder scene? Did you use red? Yeah. Looks like Dexter. All right, guys. Okay, next one we're gonna move on to is blooms or bleeding. Yeah, always clean your brush off. Always make sure that's clean by kind of drying it off on your paper towel. Okay. Shh. Focus in. Okay. Okay, Keaton, we're gonna finish this one up because saran wrap will be the same exact thing, but then we just put a piece of saran wrap on top. And then, so as soon as I'm done with it, you clean up and you go. Okay? All right, guys. So this one's a little different. So what we're gonna do is instead of painting with watercolor first, we're gonna just paint with just water. Okay? So you're just picking up water and you're gonna do like we've been doing, giving yourself kind of a swatch. Now you can't really see what I'm doing up here, but all I'm doing is just painting water in this area. And I've kind of loaded my brush up like 2 or 3 times, so I've done that about 2 or 3 times. Then you guys can watch up here if you want. First, I went and pulled the color, and once you pull a color, all you're doing is just touching it to the water that you've already done, and you should see them kind of explodey out. That's the bloom / bleeding. Now I'm gonna pick up another color to go with it, so I'm gonna kind of do 2 colors, and I know the second color, it does a lot better. So then if you want to keep watching what mine's doing, so then I'm gonna come on top with purple, and it really likes to spread. So you guys will kind of notice that it may do different things in different areas. Like that purple one was really good. That one was really, really good. You guys can see how it like moves all the other colors. You can even go back on top and kind of layer on top of that. All right, Keaton, you better pack up so you can get down there. All right, guys. Okay, so we're on to the last one, and then we are done for the day. So basically, one thing that I want to say before we start the saran wrap part. On your guys' project, you need to start thinking about a color scheme that you want to use that goes with your character. So for example, hey.
Do you think you could watch them for a second so I can relieve pressure?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what you guys are going to do is just carefully put in your bin. All right, so color scheme. Like mine up here is Clark Kent from Smallville, which is like Superman before he's Superman. So, but what are Superman's colors? Red, blue, and yellow. So those are the colors that I used for my background. So you guys need to kind of start thinking about that. And how about you use that for practice on your saran wrap? So I'm going to use those same colors. The technique that we're using is the blooms bleeding technique. And then I'll show you what to do with the saran wrap. So do the blooms bleeding technique here, and I'll show you how you put the saran wrap on top. Hi. A little bit.
Okay, I was gonna have you print a picture, but it's okay.
I can't do it right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey, just send it to me, and then I'll get it here in a little bit. Okay. All right, guys, so bloom technique, so that's water down first. I'm going to start with my lighter color first. So for me, that is yellow, and unfortunately, the yellows can get really contaminated. Mine's got like some green in there right now. Shh. Thank you. Okay, so bloom technique. Let's start with my yellow. Let me move it over a little bit so you guys can see it better. Okay, see ya. Okay, then I'm gonna take a little bit of red. Add that in here. Now, what's the problem that I could be running into in using wet watercolors on top of each other? They will mix. So if you guys don't want your colors to mix, you got to work one color at a time. So like when I start putting the blue down, it's probably going to start mixing with the red to kind of make purple, and like definitely mixing with the yellow to start making some green. So I may not want that. All right, guys, so here's the last deal. Like, see guys up here in the corner, how that's starting to get real like muddy looking? So if you're gonna be using multiple colors in your color scheme, think about using one color at a time, letting it dry. Okay, your saran wrap. Now grab your saran wrap and start kind of crinkling it up. Now you don't wanna completely smush it up into a ball. You just wanna crinkle it up, and then you wanna just lay it right on top, and then just kind of press it down and then leave it there. You take it off tomorrow. Just like when you are gonna like take the salt off too, you're gonna do that tomorrow.
So do I wrap it up?
You kind of crinkle it a little bit, and then you just stick it right on top of the wet paint. So it's imperative saran wrap can only work when the paint is wet. Okay, so for example, on my project, just to kind of show you guys, that is the saran wrap technique, like up close. So the saran wrap kind of moves it around, and so what I would do is I would kind of like paint in, so I'm doing the blooms, right? So then I'd put water down first, and then I'd put the red down, and then I'd tear myself off a piece of saran wrap and stick it down on top. Then I'd come over into this section, do yellow. Now you can see where it kind of bled, like the blue bled in there, and it got me green. So if you really don't want that, then you just do one color at a time, and then keep coming back to it the next day after after it's dried. Okay, so that's what saran wrap ends up looking like when it's done. That's my personal favorite. All right, so